So with less than a week before a 90-day pause on Trump's so-called reciprocal tariffs is set to expire, eyes are now on whether the South Korean government will be able to reach a trade deal. For more on what to expect, we're joined by Professor Kim Yong-Jin, professor at Sogang Business School. Professor Kim, thanks for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
Good morning. So the UK and Vietnam have struck trade deals with the United States, while Trump specifically cast doubt on the possibility of a trade deal with Japan. What do you think will be the case for South Korea?
Well, as we mentioned, the UK and Vietnam became the countries which complete the trade deal with the US, and then the US will charge 20% tariff on import from Vietnam under a new trade deal. In addition to it, this is a very interesting part, the U.S. will impose a steeper tariff of 40% on goods that pass through Vietnam in a process so-called transshipping, which amount would be a third of all Vietnamese export to U.S., according to Peter Navarro, Trump's senior counsel on trade and manufacturing. Most interesting part of the deal to me is what Mr. Trump mentioned. The president said on social media, Vietnam will do something that they have never done before, give the United States of America total access to their market for trade. In other words, they will open their market to the United States, meaning that we'll be able to sell our product into Vietnam at zero tariff. I think, this is the very nature of the deal. Mr. Trump wants to open up the market of the trade partners to U.S. He made it in the negotiation with Vietnam. Based on that understanding, we can guess what will be happening to the Korea-U.S. deal. The negotiation between Korea and the U.S. is still going on. The target outcome of the U.S. is not very clear or clearly delivered to Korean negotiators. So the two countries need more time to negotiate before they close the deal at the moment. I think, the due date will be extended once more.
I see. And South Korea's top trade negotiator is set to visit Washington again this weekend. And this comes just days before the deadline. What will be the #1 priority for Korean officials as they, work to reach a deal and minimize the impact of potential tariffs?
Well, we can understand the situation of the tariff negotiation between two countries through the President Lee Jae-myung's press conference yesterday. President Lee told the press conference yesterday, marking his 30 days in office, that tariff negotiations were clearly not easy, and it was difficult to say for sure whether to complete the negotiations by July 8th, although his government was doing its best. Seoul and Washington should produce mutually beneficial outcomes, but what each side demanded had yet to be clearly decided. Based on the statement of the president, what we can see is that the negotiation won't be closed within the time frame suggested by the U.S. So the priority of the Korean delegation will be the understanding of the key purpose of the U.S. What kind of things the U.S. want to achieve, and then getting of the due date extension for the trade negotiation.
Right, it really is a difficult issue indeed. And South Korea's proposed regulations on U.S. e-commerce firms doing business in South Korea are reportedly complicating negotiations. And the issue of digital trade seems to be a major sticking point in the talks, right?
Yeah. It will be one of the key issues that need to be discussed in the trade negotiation. It is known that 43 lawmakers of the United States urged the Donald Trump administration to address what they call the Korean government unfair barriers, like non-tariff barriers, right? Targeting American digital service providers. Online Platform Act of Korea has been discussed for a long time to regulate the monopolistic online platforms to protect the users. Under the previous Yoon Suk-yeol administration, there were bipartisan effort to designate major online platform operators subject to stricter antitrust regulations. Although the antitrust regulator ultimately decided to target dominant players only when irregularities are uncovered, the U.S. has continuously objected to the proposed changes. warning of possible retaliation. So in sum, the online platform regulation of Korea would be on the trade negotiation table, absolutely.
Right. And what cards does South Korea hold in tariff negotiations with the U.S., do you think?
Well, that's the part, Still, President, Lee Jae-myung said, we are preparing for that. But anyway, we have been discussing the issues quite a long time. It is very clear now, what the Trump administration really achieves through the tariff negotiation. If they impose the planned tariff on the imported goods, the consumer price in the United States will go up to negatively affect inflation and economic growth of the United States. So it won't be the outcome of the Trump administration pursues. What the U.S. really wants to achieve is to open up the markets of the trade partners like Korea so that their product and services are sold more in the partner countries, which in turn reduce the trade deficit. In this sense, Korean government may offer several options, let's say including more import of U.S. agricultural product, meat, natural gas, and crude oils to contribute to the trade surplus of the U.S. This might be the things, President Lee mentioned.
Right. And South Korea, faces 25% reciprocal tariffs. What's likely to happen after the pause expires on July 9? And which South Korean industries will be the hardest hit once the tariffs go into effect next week?
Absolutely, absolutely. And if the 25% reciprocal tariff, goes into effect, Korean companies, because Korea really rely on export, for economic growth, these Korean companies will experience a big trouble due to the price increase in the exported product to the U.S. The demand may decrease, so absolutely export will decrease. However, the reciprocal tariff would be imposed on all other countries. Like the negotiation is only done with 2 countries, right? So the negative effect will be limited. I think the 25% reciprocal tariff will be imposed after. It won't be imposed after July 9th because Korean government tries hard to cooperate with the U.S. in the negotiation. Let's see, what will be happening.
Right, Professor Kim, we'll have to see how it goes. Thank you so much for your insight today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, for having me.